My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 31 years old. And the strange thing about betrayal is that it rarely feels like betrayal when it begins. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it sounds like concern. Sometimes it hides inside the people you trust the most. I used to think my sister and I were unbreakable. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She's 3 years older than me. Growing up, we were everything people imagine sisters should be. We shared clothes, secrets, late-night conversations whispered under blankets when we were supposed to be asleep. She was the first person I told when I had my first crush, and the first person who held me when that crush broke my heart. She wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend. At least, that's what I believed. Things didn't change all at once. They never do. It started quietly, somewhere between college graduations and first real jobs. That's when Sarah began keeping score. I didn't notice it at first. Not when I graduated with my degree and she enrolled in a master's program the very next year. Not when I landed my first promotion and she announced she was starting her own business. Not even when I bought my condo and she upgraded to a full house 6 months later. At the time, I told myself it was coincidence. Ambition. Sisters growing in parallel. But looking back now, it wasn't parallel. It was competition. And I was the only one who didn't realize we were playing. Then I met Marcus Hayes. He wasn't flashy. Not the kind of man who made grand speeches or dramatic promises. But he was steady. The kind of steady that makes you feel safe without even realizing why. He remembered how I took my coffee. He texted me when I got home, just to make sure I was okay. He kissed my forehead when he thought I was asleep. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't chasing anything. I was just home. We dated for 3 years before he proposed. It wasn't extravagant. No crowd, no cameras. Just the two of us in our living room, surrounded by takeout containers and a half-finished movie we never got back to. "Marry me," he said, holding out a ring with slightly shaking hands. And I said yes before he could even finish the sentence. Because with Marcus, I never needed convincing. When I told Sarah, she smiled. She hugged me. She said all the right things. "I'm so happy for you," she said. And for a moment, I believed her. I started planning a small wedding. Nothing extravagant. Just family, close friends, something intimate, something real. That was always enough for me. 2 months later, Sarah got engaged to a man named Brad Collins. They'd been dating for 6 months. 6. No one even knew they were serious. And yet suddenly there was a ring, a venue, a guest list that tripled mine. 200 people, a destination wedding, and a date, 3 months before mine. "I just want to make sure I go first," she said, smiling like it was a joke. Like it wasn't. "You don't mind, right?" I did mind. God, I minded. But what could I say? So I smiled, and I moved my wedding. That should have been the moment I understood what she was doing. But love makes you patient. Family makes you forgiving. And I was still trying to be both. Sarah's wedding became her entire identity. Every conversation, every decision, every breath. Perfect flowers. Perfect venue. Perfect dress. Perfect image. It was never about the marriage. It was about being seen. By the time my wedding came around 6 months later, it barely registered in her world. She showed up, sat through the ceremony, left early, didn't post a single photo, didn't ask how I felt, didn't care. And that hurt more than I expected. Not because I needed attention, but because I realized she didn't think I deserved it. Still, I let it go, because that's what I always did with Sarah. I let things go. 2 years passed, and then Sarah got pregnant. She announced it at Thanksgiving like it was a movie scene. Tears, cheers, applause. My mom cried. My aunts threw her multiple parties. There were photos every week. Gender reveal. Baby shower that looked like a royal event. I was happy for her. I really was. She had always wanted to be a mother. And then, 6 months later, so did I. Marcus and I had been trying, quietly, patiently. And when I saw those 2 lines, I cried, not out of fear, but because something in my life had finally aligned without struggle. I was 12 weeks along when I decided to tell my mom, "Mom, I'm pregnant." There was a pause. Too long. Too quiet. "Oh, that's wonderful, honey." But her voice didn't match her words. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You don't sound excited." "No, I am," she said quickly. "It's just—" She hesitated. And in that hesitation, something shifted. "Sarah's wedding is in 2 months," she said. "This is going to complicate things." I remember sitting there, trying to understand what she meant. What does my pregnancy have to do with Sarah's wedding? "Well, you'll be showing by then," she said carefully. "Quite a bit. And Sarah's been planning this for over a year. She's going to be upset." Upset. Because I was pregnant. I laughed. I actually laughed. Because it sounded ridiculous. Mom, I can't control when I get pregnant. Sarah will understand. Another pause. Just maybe don't announce it publicly yet, she said. Let's get through the wedding first. That should have been my warning. That should have been the moment I saw everything clearly. But I didn't. Because I still believed my family loved me more than they loved appearances. I was wrong. And I wouldn't understand just how wrong I was until I told Sarah. Sarah, I said, smiling into the phone, I'm pregnant. Silence. Then, you're what? The silence on the other end of the phone stretched so long that for a second I thought the call had dropped. Then Sarah spoke again. When are you due? There was no congratulations. No laugh. No warmth. Just calculation. January, I said. Why? Another pause. Then, in a voice so flat it barely sounded human, she said, My wedding is in October. I frowned, staring at the wall of our kitchen. Okay. You'll be showing by then. I let out a small laugh, confused, more than offended. I mean, probably, yeah. You'll be huge. The word hit differently than I expected. Not because it was especially cruel, but because of how quickly she said it, how naturally, as if that was the first and only thing that mattered. So, I asked. So, she repeated, disbelief rising in her voice. Lauren, you're my maid of honor. There it was. Not sister, not friend, not someone she loved. A prop, a role, a piece of the picture. I'll still be there, I said carefully. I'm not due until January. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The point is that I've spent over a year planning every detail of this wedding, and now my maid of honor is going to be visibly pregnant. I pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, staring at it like maybe hearing the words in the open air would make them sound less insane. They didn't. I put it back. Are you seriously upset that I'm pregnant during your wedding? I'm upset that you didn't think about how this would affect me. I actually laughed then, but it came out wrong. Thin, sharp, more disbelief than humor. How this would affect you? Yes, me. Her voice hardened. Do you know how that's going to look in photos? Do you know how much attention people are going to give you? I felt something cold move through me. Sarah, I said slowly, I'm having a baby. I'm not launching a campaign against your centerpieces. You always do this. The words came so fast, so familiar, like she'd been rehearsing them for years. Always do what? Compete. I closed my eyes. There it was. The word she'd hidden inside everything else. Compete, I repeated quietly. Yes, first you get engaged, then you get married. Now you're pregnant right before my wedding. It's always something with you. I sat down at the kitchen table before my knees gave out from sheer disbelief. I got engaged almost 2 years ago, Sarah, and I got engaged after. I moved my wedding date for you. That was your choice. I could hear her breathing on the other end, short and angry, like she'd already decided I was the villain and was just waiting for me to accept the role. You're being ridiculous, I said. No, she snapped. You're being selfish. That word. Selfish. As if my child was an inconvenience I had scheduled specifically to ruin her floral arrangements. I'm done with this conversation, I said. She exhaled sharply. Don't be dramatic. We need to talk about this like adults. Like adults. As if adults regularly called their pregnant sisters to complain about camera angles. I ended the call. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. A few seconds later, my phone lit up. Sarah. Don't act like I'm the bad guy. Sarah. We need to fix this. Sarah. Call me back. Sarah. Lauren. Sarah. Seriously? Sarah. Stop being childish. I blocked her. For about 12 hours, I thought that would be the end of it. I should have known better. The next afternoon, my mom called. I almost didn't answer. But some part of me still believed she would be the reasonable one, that once Sarah calmed down, my mother would remind her that families were bigger than weddings and babies mattered more than photographs. I answered on the third ring. Hi, Mom. Lauren, you need to call your sister back. No hello. No how are you. No congratulations. Just instruction. No, I don't. She's upset. I laughed once, a bitter sound I didn't recognize as my own. She called me selfish for being pregnant. You hung up on her. She said my pregnancy would ruin her wedding. She's stressed, my mother said quickly. Wedding planning is hard. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. Yes, she did. Lauren. She asked how my body would look in her photos. Because she's overwhelmed. The words came out of me before I could soften them. And I'm pregnant. Silence. Then a sigh. Please just apologize and move on. My grip tightened around the phone. Apologize for what? For how you handled it. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. How I handled it? You should have told Sarah before you told other people. You should have been more sensitive to her feelings. I stared at the kitchen window, at the reflection of my own face, and for a second I genuinely wondered if I was losing my mind. Her feelings, I said. Lauren, don't twist my words. No, Mom. Say them clearly. My voice was shaking now. Say out loud that my pregnancy is less important than Sarah's wedding. That's not what I'm saying. It is exactly what you're saying. I'm saying timing matters. There it was. Not morality. Not love. Timing. As if my son existed on the wrong square of a calendar. Mom, I said quietly, this is your grandchild. And I am happy about the baby, she said, too quickly, too defensively. But Sarah has been looking forward to this day for over a year. The least you could do is be considerate. I am being considerate. No, you're not. I'm still planning to stand beside her. That's not enough. Not enough. I swallowed hard. Then what would be enough? She didn't answer immediately, and somehow that silence felt worse than words. Finally, she said, we'll talk about it at Sunday dinner. I let out a stunned breath. Talk about what? As a family. She hung up before I could ask anything else. That evening, Marcus found me sitting on the edge of our bed with my phone in my hand and tears I hadn't realized were falling. He crossed the room without asking questions and knelt in front of me. What happened? I told him everything. Every word. Every cold pause. Every insane implication that I had somehow become a threat to a grown woman in a wedding dress simply by carrying a child. Marcus listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening more and more with every sentence. When I finished, he sat back on his heels and looked at me like he was trying very hard not to say exactly what he thought. That's insane, he said finally. I know. No. He shook his head. I mean actually insane. Not rude, not selfish, not stressed. Insane. Something inside me cracked a little then, because hearing someone say it out loud made me realize I wasn't imagining this. I don't want to go on Sunday, I whispered. He took my hands. Then don't. But if I don't go, they'll say I'm being dramatic. He held my gaze. Lauren, they're already saying that. That landed hard because it was true. I looked down at our hands, at the ring on my finger, at the life we had built that suddenly felt under attack by people who were supposed to love me. Maybe they'll be different in person, I said, even though I didn't believe it. Marcus gave me a look that said he didn't believe it either, but he didn't push. Then I'll be here when you get back, he said. Sunday dinner at my parents' house had always smelled the same. Roasted chicken. Garlic. Wine my father opened too early. Usually, the familiarity comforted me. That night, it made my stomach turn. The whole family was there. My mother, my father, Sarah, my aunts Linda and Carol, 2 uncles, my younger brother, Ethan, sitting stiffly at the far end of the table with his eyes on his plate. Sarah was 8 months pregnant by then, one hand resting theatrically on her stomach, wearing a soft blue dress that made her look almost saintly. If I hadn't known her, I might have mistaken her for gentle. She looked up when I walked in, didn't smile, didn't speak, just watched me like I had arrived already guilty. Dinner moved in the strange, unnatural rhythm of people waiting for the real event to begin. Plates passed. Water poured. No one relaxed. No one laughed. Finally, my mother set down her fork and cleared her throat. So, she said, folding her hands together, we need to discuss Lauren's situation. My situation. As if I were a scandal. As if I were an illness. I set down my glass very carefully. You mean my pregnancy? My mother gave a tight smile. Yes, and how it affects Sarah's wedding. The whole table went still. I looked around and felt something inside me go cold. Every face was turned toward me. Waiting. Judging. Assessing. Like a jury that had already heard the case without me. I leaned back in my chair. Okay, what about it? Sarah spoke first. I've been thinking about this a lot, she said, in that soft voice people use when they want to sound reasonable while saying something cruel. And I've come to a decision. I held her gaze. What decision? I need you to step down as maid of honor. That hurt. More than I expected. Not because I wanted the role, but because of what it meant. I nodded once. Okay. A tiny flicker of surprise crossed her face, like she hadn't expected surrender so quickly. Then she kept going. And I need you not to come to the wedding. The room tilted. I stared at her. What? I don't want you there. My mother closed her eyes briefly, but she didn't interrupt. No one did. I looked from face to face, waiting for someone to laugh, to call it a bad joke, to say this had gone far enough. No one moved. You're uninviting me, I said slowly, because I'm pregnant. Sarah lifted one shoulder. I'm uninviting you because you're selfish. I actually felt my pulse in my ears. You knew when my wedding was. You knew how important this was to me. You could have waited. I stared at her. Waited to get pregnant? Yes. We had been trying for months. Then you should have tried later. The absurdity of it was almost impossible to hold. I laughed, but this time it sounded wild even to me. You think I timed my pregnancy to sabotage your wedding? I think you never think about anyone but yourself. Aunt Linda finally leaned in. Honey, Sarah does have a point. The timing is unfortunate. Unfortunate. Like rain on a picnic. Like traffic. Not a wanted child. Not a life. Unfortunate, I repeated. My mother gave me that warning look she used when I was a teenager, and she wanted me to behave in front of company. We're not saying you shouldn't have a baby, Lauren. No, we're just asking you to be considerate. How? The word came out sharp. How exactly am I supposed to be considerate? I can't stop being pregnant for one day, so Sarah can feel like the moon. Sarah leaned forward then, her face hardening in a way I had only seen a few times in my life. Actually hardening, like she was done pretending. There is one thing you can do. Something in the room changed. Even Ethan looked up. I felt the blood drain from my face before she even said it. What? Her eyes locked on mine. You're only 12 weeks. My heartbeat turned jagged. You still have time. No one breathed. No one moved. I heard the clock in my parents' dining room ticking against the wall, and for one horrible second, it felt louder than anything else in the world. You can handle this now, she said, almost calmly. And then after the wedding, you and Marcus can try again. I just stared at her. My brain understood the words before my body did. The meaning arrived in pieces. Cold. Heavy. Impossible. You want me? My voice broke. You want me to abort my baby so I don't ruin your wedding? Sarah's expression didn't change. Don't be dramatic. It's not a baby yet. I looked at my mother so fast it made my neck ache. Mom? She wouldn't meet my eyes. My chest started to tighten. Are you hearing this? Sarah's upset, my mother said weakly. I absolutely mean it, Sarah cut in. I looked around the table. At Aunt Linda, who looked uncomfortable but not horrified. At my father, staring down at his plate. At Carol, who wouldn't look at me. At the people who had watched me grow up. Who had held me as a child. Who had come to my graduation. My wedding. My life. And not one of them looked shocked enough. Not one of them reacted the way they should have. That was the moment something inside me broke completely. Not because Sarah said it. Because everyone else let her. Lauren, Aunt Linda said carefully, no one is saying this lightly. But Sarah only gets one wedding day. I turned to her slowly. And my child only gets one life. She flinched. Good. Sarah folded her arms. You're doing it again. Doing what? Making everything about you. I laughed then. Loud. Disbelieving. Ugly. Of course it's about me. It's my body. My baby. My life. It's also my wedding. I stood up so fast my chair hit the floor behind me. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Then have your wedding, I said. Have your flowers and your pictures and your stupid perfect day. But do not sit there and ask me to destroy my child so you can feel more special. Lauren, sit down, my mother snapped. No, we are not done discussing this. Yes, we are. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely reach for my purse. Sarah's voice followed me, cold and furious. For once in your life, put me first. I turned back so sharply even I felt the force of it. For once in your life, I said, understand that not everything is a competition. She opened her mouth, but I was already done listening. Then my father spoke, quietly, too quietly. Maybe, he said, still not really looking at me, you should think about what's best for the family. That was it. That was the final cut. Not Sarah's cruelty. Not my mother's excuses. My father's silence turning finally into agreement. I stared at him, and whatever little girl in me had once believed he would protect me died right there in that dining room. What's best for the family? I repeated. No one answered. Because they didn't have to. They already had. I picked up my purse. My mother stood. Don't be dramatic. I looked at her with tears burning behind my eyes and something colder beneath them. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm leaving. Lauren! I'm not aborting my baby for a wedding. Sarah crossed her arms. If you walk out now, don't bother coming at all. I looked at her for a long second. At the face I had loved my whole life. At the woman who would have sacrificed my child for a spotlight. Then I nodded once. Don't worry, I said. I wouldn't. And I walked out. No one came after me. That part stayed with me for a long time. Not one person followed me to the door. Not one person called my name in a voice that sounded like love. I drove home half blind with rage and disbelief, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. Marcus was waiting in the living room when I came in. He stood the second he saw my face. How did it go? For a second I couldn't speak. Then I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I was going to collapse. She asked me to abort the baby. Marcus went still. The entire room seemed to stop with him. She asked you to what? I told him everything. The dinner. The silence. The way my father said family like I wasn't part of it. By the time I finished, Marcus looked furious in a way I had almost never seen. That's unforgivable, he said. I nodded. And the strange thing was, for the first time all week, I felt calm. Not better. Not less hurt. Just clear. Like the fog had finally lifted and shown me exactly what stood in front of me. My family had chosen, and now so had I. I'm done, I said quietly. Marcus didn't ask what I meant. He already knew. With all of them, I thought about my mother's lowered eyes, my father's silence, Sarah's voice, a table full of people who had weighed my child against a wedding and found my child inconvenient. Yes, I said, and this time there was no shaking in my voice. With all of them. That night, I blocked every number connected to that dinner. My mother, my father, Sarah, aunts, uncles, anyone who had sat there and treated my baby like an obstacle to event planning. The only person I didn't block was Ethan, because while everyone else had looked annoyed, uncomfortable, or quietly complicit, he had looked horrified. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Ethan, that was wrong. All of it. Ethan, are you okay? I stared at the message for a long time before answering. Me, I will be. Me, thanks for not being insane. He replied almost immediately. Ethan, I love you. Ethan, I'm here if you need me. I looked at the screen until the tears blurred the words. Then I set the phone down, pressed a hand over my stomach, and made a promise to the tiny life inside me. No matter what it cost me, I would protect him, even from the people I came from. Cutting people off sounds dramatic when you say it out loud, like something impulsive, something you'll regret the moment the anger fades. But the truth is, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, deliberate, and once I did it, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The first week after that dinner, my phone didn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers, voicemails, messages from extended family I hadn't spoken to in years, people who suddenly felt entitled to weigh in on my life. You're overreacting. She's your sister. It's just one day. You can have another baby. That one made me physically sick. I stopped listening to the voicemails after the third message that suggested my child was replaceable. I stopped reading texts after the fifth accusation that I was ruining the family. Eventually, I just stopped answering altogether. Silence became my shield. Sarah's wedding came and went. I wasn't there. Of course I wasn't. But that didn't mean I didn't know what it looked like. Ethan sent me pictures a few days later. Not to hurt me, just to show me. To be honest, it was exactly what Sarah had wanted. Lavish. Perfect. Every detail curated down to the last flower petal. She looked radiant in every photo, smiling, laughing, like she hadn't spent weeks trying to convince her pregnant sister to erase her own child. Like none of it had ever happened. I stared at those photos longer than I should have. Not because I missed being there, but because of how easy it seemed for her to move on, to step into that perfect moment without carrying the weight of what she had done. On the day of her wedding, Marcus and I ordered takeout. We stayed home, watched movies, kept the lights low and the world smaller than it had ever been before. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I felt like I had escaped it. My pregnancy moved forward, slowly, steadily. And with every passing week, I felt myself coming back to life. Not the version of me who had sat at that dinner table begging to be understood, but someone stronger, someone who didn't need permission to exist. There were still hard days, moments when I picked up my phone out of habit, ready to text my mom something small, something meaningless, and then remembered. Moments when I wondered if things could have gone differently, if I had said something else, done something else. But those thoughts never lasted long, because they always led me back to the same truth. They had asked me to choose, and I had. Nice. In January, my son was born. We named him Oliver. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a tiny perfect cry that filled the hospital room and made everything else disappear. Marcus held him first, his hands shaking, his eyes bright in a way I had never seen before. Then he placed Oliver in my arms, and the world narrowed down to that single moment, that single breath, that single overwhelming certainty. I had done the right thing. All the noise, all the pressure, all the voices telling me I was selfish, dramatic, unreasonable, none of it mattered anymore. Because Oliver existed, and he was everything. I sent Ethan a picture. Just one. Oliver wrapped in a soft blue blanket, his face scrunched, like he was already trying to understand the world he'd been born into. Ethan replied almost instantly. Ethan, he's beautiful. Ethan, congratulations. A minute later, Ethan, I'm really glad you didn't listen to them. I smiled at that, because it felt like the first honest thing anyone from my family had said in a long time. Do you want to meet him? I texted back. He came over that weekend. Walked into our house like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to breathe too loudly, like he was stepping into something sacred. Marcus shook his hand. I handed him Oliver. And Ethan cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. just quiet tears that slipped down his face as he looked at his nephew. "I'm so glad you didn't listen to them," he said again, his voice thick. "Me too." He looked up at me then. "They ask about you, you know." I didn't even hesitate. "I don't care." He nodded slowly. "Mom especially." Something inside me tightened, but I didn't let it show. "She regrets what she said," he added carefully. "Good," I said. "She should." There was a pause. Then softer. "Are you ever going to talk to them again?" I looked down at Oliver, at the tiny rise and fall of his chest, at the life they had tried to convince me to erase. "Not unless they apologize," I said. Ethan nodded. "Really apologize," I added. And even then, I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. He understood. 6 months passed. And then, nothing. No calls, no messages, no attempts to reach me through other people. At first, I thought they were regrouping. Then I thought they were respecting my boundaries. Eventually, I realized they had simply accepted it, that I was gone. And strangely, I was okay with that. Marcus, Oliver, Ethan when he visited. That was my family now. Small, real, enough. Then one evening, everything changed. Ethan called. It was late, later than he usually called, and the moment I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong. "Lauren," he said, and there was something in his tone that made my stomach drop. "We need to talk." I shifted Oliver slightly on my hip, moving into the kitchen so Marcus could hear too. "I don't want to hear about Sarah," I said immediately. "You need to," he said. Something about the way he said it, not urgent, not dramatic, just certain, made me stop. "Okay," I said slowly. "What happened?" There was a pause. Then, "Her marriage is falling apart." I blinked. "What?" "Brad left her 3 days ago." I leaned against the counter, trying to process that. Brad, the man she had rushed into marriage with. The man whose wedding had apparently been worth more than my child. Why? Another pause. Longer this time. He found out the truth. My grip tightened around Oliver. "What truth?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "The baby isn't his." For a second, I didn't understand the words. Not because they were unclear, but because they didn't fit into reality. "What?" "Charlotte," he said quietly. "She's not Brad's daughter." I slid down into a chair without realizing I was moving. Marcus stepped closer, his hand coming to rest on my shoulder. "How?" "There was someone else," Ethan said. "Before Brad, Sarah got pregnant, panicked, and then started dating Brad almost immediately. Made him think the baby was his." I felt something cold and sharp settle deep in my chest. "Oh my God." "It gets worse," Ethan added. "Of course it does. It always does. Brad's filing for divorce and custody. He wants nothing to do with Sarah. And the real father? Doesn't want anything to do with them either." I closed my eyes. For a moment, all I could see was Sarah sitting at that dinner table, telling me to destroy my child. For a wedding that was already built on a lie. "How did this come out?" Marcus asked quietly. "Brad's mom," Ethan said. "She noticed Charlotte didn't look like anyone in their family. Pushed for a test. And 0% probability." Silence filled the kitchen. Heavy, thick, unavoidable. My sister, the one who had called me selfish, the one who had demanded I erase my child for her perfect life, had built that life on deception. "There's more," Ethan said. I let out a hollow laugh. "Of course there is." "The whole family knows now," he continued. "Mom, Dad, everyone. And they're freaking out." I didn't respond, because I already knew what was coming next. "They keep talking about you," he said. "About what they said, about what they asked you to do." I stared at the wall, at nothing. "At least they finally realized," I said flatly. "They did more than realize," Ethan said quietly. "They want to apologize." There it was, the part that was supposed to matter. The part that was supposed to fix everything. I looked down at Oliver. At the child they had treated like an inconvenience, a problem, a disruption. No. "No," I said. Ethan hesitated. "Lauren, no. They know they were wrong. It doesn't matter. They want to make it right." I let out a slow breath. "You don't make something like that right." Silence. Then softer. "Will you at least think about it?" I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. "No." "Lauren." "Tell them I'm done," I said. "Tell them I have my own family now." Another pause. Longer this time. He sighed. "Okay." Then quieter. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." I swallowed hard. "Thanks." After we hung up, Marcus looked at me carefully. "Did that really just happen?" "Yeah." "Your sister lied about her baby's father, and now your family wants to apologize." "Yeah." "What are you going to do?" I didn't even have to think about it. "Nothing." Because some things, once broken, don't go back together. I thought that would be the end of it. That hearing the truth, finally, undeniably, would close the door on everything that had happened. I was wrong. Because guilt has a way of making people desperate. It started the very next morning. Unknown number. I let it ring. Voicemail. I deleted it without listening. Another number. Another voicemail. Then another. By the third one, I knew exactly who it was before I even pressed play. My mother. Her voice was unrecognizable, broken, shaking, stripped of the certainty she had carried so confidently just months before. Lauren, please, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Please call me back. I want to meet my grandson. Please. I stared at the phone until the screen went dark. Then I deleted the message. My father sent an email, not a text. An email. Like he needed the extra space to say what he should have said months ago. Lauren, I should have stood up for you. I was a coward. I chose silence when I should have chosen you. I'm sorry. Please give me a chance to make this right. I read it once, then I deleted it. Sarah tried too. Multiple numbers. Multiple messages. Each one more desperate than the last. Sarah, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you. Sarah, everything's falling apart. Please talk to me. Sarah, I'm sorry. I was jealous. I was cruel. I ruined everything. Sarah, please, you're my sister. I didn't respond. I didn't even let myself type anything, because I knew if I opened that door, even a crack, everything I had built would start to shake. Then came the message that almost broke me. Sarah, Brad took Charlotte. I only have supervised visits. I'm alone. Please. I have nobody. I stared at that one longer than I should have. Long enough to feel something dangerous rise in my chest. Not forgiveness, but something close to it. Pity. Marcus saw it in my face. What did she say? I handed him the phone. He read it, then looked at me. Lauren, I know, I said quickly. I know. Because I did. I knew exactly what that message was designed to do. To remind me that she was suffering. To make me forget what she had asked me to do. To blur the line between consequence and cruelty. Hey. I almost feel bad, I admitted quietly. Marcus didn't sugarcoat it. You can feel bad, he said. That doesn't mean you let her back in. I closed my eyes. And there it was again. That clarity. The same clarity I had felt the night I walked out of that dinner. She asked me to kill our son, I whispered. Marcus's hand tightened around mine. I know. That was the moment the pity disappeared. Not completely, but enough. Enough to remind me why I had walked away in the first place. I blocked every number she used, every email, every attempt. Then they showed up. My mother came first, knocked on the door for 20 minutes straight. I stood on the other side of it, Oliver in my arms, listening to her voice break through the wood. Lauren, please, just 5 minutes, please. 5 minutes. As if 5 minutes could undo what she had said. As if 5 minutes could erase the image of her sitting at that table while her daughter begged me to destroy my child. I didn't open the door. Eventually, she left. There was a package on the porch. Baby clothes. Toys. A handwritten note. Please let me meet him. I didn't read the rest. I donated the gifts the next day. Threw the note away. Sarah came next. Crying. Knocking harder. Louder. Lauren, please. I know I messed up. I know what I asked was unforgivable, but I need you. I need my sister. I stood in the hallway, my back against the wall, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. For a moment, just a moment, I almost reached for the door. Almost. Then I heard it again. Her voice at that dinner. You still have time. I picked up my phone instead, and I called the police. My father tried a different approach. He showed up at my work, waited in the parking lot. I saw him the moment I stepped outside. He looked older, smaller somehow, like regret had carved something out of him. Lauren, he said, stepping forward, please, just 5 minutes. There it was again. 5 minutes. Always 5 minutes. As if time was the problem. As if time was the solution. No, I said. I'm your father. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who had taught me how to ride a bike. Who had walked me down the aisle. Who had sat at that table and said nothing while I was asked to destroy my child. You're the man who stayed silent, I said quietly. That's who you are. His face crumpled. Good. Now get out of my way. I walked past him without looking back. Word spread. It always does. Families don't keep secrets well, especially not ones this big. Some people took my side, said I had every right to cut them off, said what they had done was unforgivable. Others said I was being cruel, that family is family, that forgiveness is important, that I should move on. I didn't care, because none of those people had been sitting at that table. None of them had heard the words. None of them had felt what it was like to realize your entire family saw your child as expendable. Sarah's life fell apart faster than I expected. Brad divorced her, got primary custody of Charlotte, not because she was a bad mother, but because she had lied. And in court, that mattered. Charlotte's biological father disappeared. Didn't want anything to do with either of them. Sarah got a job, moved into a small apartment, saw her daughter every other weekend. Her perfect life, gone. Just like that. My mother called it karma. Ethan told me that. Said she had said it out loud at a family dinner. Sarah's being punished for what she did to Lauren. But it didn't feel like punishment. Not really, because nothing that happened to Sarah would ever undo what had happened to me. 8 months later, I got a letter. Not a text, not an email. A letter, handwritten. My name on the front in handwriting I would recognize anywhere. I almost threw it away. I should have. But something stopped me. Curiosity. Closure. I don't know. I opened it. Lauren, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to tell you something. When I asked you to abort your baby, I wasn't thinking about you. I wasn't thinking about your future. I was only thinking about myself. I was jealous. I've always been jealous of you. I stopped there, closed my eyes, then kept reading.
Yes.
You're smarter, kinder. People love you without you trying. I've always had to work for it. When you got engaged, I panicked. I thought I was losing. So I rushed into something bigger, better, louder. When you got pregnant, I saw it as another competition, another thing you would win. So I tried to stop you. I tried to make you choose me over your child. I know how horrible that sounds. I know what I asked you to do. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply, sorry. I lost everything. My marriage, my daughter, my family's respect, and I deserve it. I hope Oliver is healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope you have the life I tried to take from you. I'm sorry. Sarah.
Busy.
I read it twice. Then I folded it, put it in a drawer, and I didn't respond. Because an apology doesn't erase what was said. It doesn't rewind time. It doesn't give you back the version of your family you thought you had. Some things, once spoken, live in the air forever. A year after I went no contact, I was at the park with Oliver. He was walking by then, laughing, chasing birds like they owed him something. And I saw her, my mother, standing across the playground, watching. She looked older, tired, like the past year had taken something from her she couldn't get back. Our eyes met, and just like that, everything flooded back. The dinner, the silence, the choice she made. She started walking toward me, tears already falling. Lauren, I picked Oliver up, turned, and walked away. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Because I didn't owe her anything. Not my time. Not my forgiveness. Not access to my child. She had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. Marcus asked me once if I would ever forgive them. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not now. Because what they did wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. A decision to value a wedding over a child. A moment over a life. Appearance over love. Oliver is 2.5 now. Healthy. Happy. Everything they said he shouldn't exist to be. He doesn't know Sarah. He doesn't know my parents. He doesn't know the people who chose something else over him before he was even born. And he never will. Because he deserves better than that. 2 years ago, my sister asked me to abort my baby so I wouldn't steal her spotlight. My family agreed, so I left. And when the truth came out, when her perfect life collapsed, when they realized they had asked me to sacrifice everything for something built on lies, they came back, begging, apologizing. But it was too late. Because some betrayals, you don't come back from. They chose a wedding. I chose my son. And I've never regretted it.